A quick and dirty discussion of sysargv, which is going to be required for your homework. If you look at the homework, you're going to see that part of what I'm requiring is that you, as I said, it would be dirty, is that you pass an argument at the command line. Now look closely at this line. This is me executing my program, but I'm also adding a argument at the command line. I put in HELLO. That turns out to be the wrong thing. The correct thing is to put in a year, and you'll see that the assignment is asking you to request a 4-digit year, and then the user is expected to put in a year that will match what's in the Fama French data file, which I've provided. This argument is what I want to focus on. Passing an argument to a program means we can allow the user to put in input at the time that they run the program rather than secondarily. Previously, to take user input, we had to use the input function, which means that we begin by running our program, then adding some input, and then continuing. But a command line argument allows us to pass an argument at the command line, that is, at the time that we run our program. And I'll show you an example of this working. Here I'm using sys, which is a module that we use to talk to the Python system. And this, by the way, is the file that I included. It's the fifth file program that I included in your zip file for this week. Sysargv is it's an attribute of sys, but it's also a list. In fact, if we simply run this program, we're going to find that it shows us, let's run that again. Let's run this with clear. See, it's just like class. You can see that this is a list. We looked at this week, in fact yesterday, a list of one string, and it's got a len of one item, which is consistent with what we're seeing. This is a single item list, and that single item, this single object, is a string. Now watch what happens when I run this script again, but I add in an argument, like let's say hello. Now sysargv, it's still a list, it contains two items, and the second item is the string that I put in. What is the first item? It's the name of the program. So sysargv subscript 0, why don't we just do that? Sysargv 0, there's the first item in the list, and remember this week we looked at subscripting a list to get an item, is the program name. And the first argument on the command line is going to be the second item, which I can subscript this way. I'll run this program again. Now you can see it's wrapping, but you can see I'm clearing the screen because I always clear the screen so that there's a pretty clear output. And then I'm saying Python name of program, and then I'm adding an additional argument. I didn't print either one. So prog name print arg1. So hopefully we'll see the first item in sysargv, and then we'll see the second item in sysargv. And there it is. The first item in sysargv is the name of the program. The second item in sysargv is the argument that I put at the command line. And in fact, we can again print sysargv at the end and see that yes, it's a list. Yes, you can subscript it, and yes, anything that you type at the command line will go into that list. In fact, you can go further than that. I'm going to need to comment these out to avoid an error. You can go further than that and type as many arguments as you'd like, and they'll all be added to sysargv. So there I'm just doing one argument. Let's run one where I say, there you are cool. I've got now multiple arguments in my list. And here again is the arguments list that I gave. As you can see, at the command line, if we want to pass an argument at the command line, we simply use spaces to separate our arguments. And actually, I'm going to run this without the clear, just so that it's super clear to you. I'm invoking Python, or I could say Python 3, whichever it is for you, running the program there, sysargpy, and then saying, hello there, you are cool, whatever I'd like, and I'm able to see each argument copied to this list as a string. So I hope you can see that this is a substitute for the input function. If I use the input function, I can get the user's argument as a string as well, if I wish. However, if I want to save the user from having to, run the program, wait for the program to ask for more input, and then type in separate input, which you've been doing up to now, I can use sysargv. And in fact, this is actually the way most programs take user input. They take it at the command line at the time that you run the script. Now there's one other thing that I need to mention to you. It's a new kind of exception that we haven't seen before, and it's called the index error exception. I have a question for you. As you can see, whatever arguments I type will go at the command line. So if I run this and it says, hello there, you are cool, I'm going to see item 2 in the list, the second item, subscript 1 is hello, subscript 2 is there, subscript 3 is you, etc. The question would be this: what if I tried to go back to my original program where I'm accepting a prog name and an arg1, and this is pretty much what you're going to do, only for your program it's going to be a 4-digit year. But let's say that I were to take those out, and then I just wanted to see, or copy those out rather, and I just wanted to see that year argument printed back. Sure, I can do it. In fact, if I put in too many arguments, it's not even a problem, because it's simply reading that second argument, right? The first argument, which is the second item in the list. It's simply reading that, and it's getting that from the second item in the list. But here's a question for you. What's going to happen if I don't give any arguments? What if the user chooses not to offer any arguments? What happens then? Well, let's find out. We get a special error called an index error exception. Now, I mentioned the index error briefly in class. The index error occurs when you attempt to access an item that is not in the list. We did that really early on, you may remember, when we looked at lists, and I tried to get subscript 10 from a 5-item list. Well, okay, here I'm trying to get subscript 1 from a 1-item list. It's a 1-item list, right? We can obviously find out exactly what's in it by simply printing it, as I always recommend that you do. And you can see there's 1 item in it. And then if you look at the error message, and of course you know the drill, we begin by looking at the line itself, and we see that it's this line. So this is the line that caused the problem. And then look at the error type, index error. You can read the message, list index out of range. That does describe it. You gave an index that the list couldn't support. There is no second item. There is no second item in this list. Because there's no second item in this list, Python doesn't know what you mean when you ask for it. It says it's just not there. This is clearly an error. So for your sake, I'm going to stop the program so that you can see what you did wrong, which is I asked for the second item, but the second item wasn't there. Now, how can we get the second item there, right? You know how. We simply add something at the command line. However, we can't trust the user to always do the right thing. In fact, part of what we've been doing so far is attempting to deal with the fact that the user may make mistakes. So how can we handle this? What could we possibly do to handle this? We want to make sure that our program doesn't error out. Probably what we'd like the behavior to be is for the program to tell the user, hey, I wanted an argument here, could you please give me one? We definitely don't want the user to have to look at a index error. We'd like to tell the user. So think about it for a second, and I'd recommend that at this point you pause the video, see if you can pause the video, and ask yourself how we could check ahead of time to see whether that argument is there. And I challenge you to pause the video right now and see if you can figure it out, because we've talked about the different things you can do with len, and I gave it away, with a list. And if you look closely at your list stuff in your zip file here under lists, so one lists, you'll see the different things that we can do with a list. The answer is in there. Okay, I'm going to pause just for a second here. Okay, so what's the answer? Well, obviously, to check to see if that argument's there, we need only check to see that the list has 2 items, and that's what we want. We want to check to see that the list has 2 items. If the list has 2 items, then we know we're in good shape and we can access index 1. If it doesn't have 2 items, if it has fewer than 2 items, then that's a problem. We might want to even make sure that the user is going to do the right thing by asking them to definitely only put in 1 argument at the command line. So we might do something like this. If not len sysargv equal to, then exit problem for you. Well, we'll probably want to say something better than that. And I've got a usage function in your homework that's going to make it a little clearer. But you can see here now that if I put in the right number of arguments, I'll get what I need. And if I put in the wrong arguments, I'll get, oh no, oh, I see. I needed to put that before I try to pull my arguments. Did you catch that? That was a test for you. There wasn't an error on my part. So let's run that again. So if I run it without the right number of arguments, I get problem for you. Great. I'm still printing it here. I could probably stop printing it. But you can see how many are in there, right? And if I say hello, I get the right number of arguments. And in fact, if I say hello there, clearly I didn't know what I was doing, right? I gave the wrong number of arguments there. This is more than what's needed. And while this wouldn't make the program fail, it might be useful to make sure that the user does exactly the right thing, just so that we know that the user isn't on the wrong track. So if I give 2 arguments at the command line, that'll be a len of 3. And so then I'll still see problem for you, right? So only by doing exactly the right thing does the user get the correct response. And that is what we're after in this program, and in most of the programs that we're going to do in the future. We're going to ask the user to put input at the command line, and there's a big benefit for us immediately, and that is that we don't need to run our programs in a 2-step process or a 3-step process. Before, right, you had to put in 2 numbers, let's say, or 2 different inputs. That's 2 input functions, and you've got to sit there and type something, hit enter, type another thing, hit enter, type another thing, hit enter, and then the program runs. What a drag. Now we've solved all of that, and I did it just for you. No, this is the way we handle arguments in the real world for the most part. Okay, great. Hope you enjoyed the video. It was only 13 minutes, and I'll see you next week. Send me questions.